All right, what's up guys? So in this video, I'm going to show you how to split test campaigns within Klaviyo correctly, along with giving you a tracking sheet template for your split tests that you can access in the first link in the description to my school group. And if you're wondering why am I qualified to teach this, I've been doing it for like 4 years, email marketing for e-commerce that is. And yeah, my team and I were really good. And if you're a $1 million+ brand a year, then like if you're a 7-figure store basically, book a call with me. We'd love to take this off your hands so you can focus on acquisition. So let's dive into how this actually works. Well, first of all, right, whenever we're split testing, one of the biggest problems I see marketers make, and this is just even outside of the realm of email marketing, is just multi-variable split tests, right? So what I mean by that is, you know, in school, you probably would have learned about like the scientific method where you have like your control variables and your independent variables and all of this stuff, right? Bottom line, you only want to change one thing at a time when running your split tests, okay? Which is why I've actually created a column about the tests that you should actually be running. So for example, in this instance, you can choose between either time, so like what time of day you're sending the email on, the content, aka the design, the copy, and all of that stuff. You can also split test the subject line. So subject line just means anything that manipulates open rates, right? So that would be your sender name, your sender address, your subject line, preview text, all of that good stuff, right? And then lastly, obviously, you can split test offers and that kind of stuff. So what you would do is essentially, before you conduct a split test, just decide on this sheet first. It's really important that you put it down here before you actually build it, because you know, without direction, it's very difficult to build anything, right? So in terms of date sent, this is basically just the day that you are planning to send. The time sent is basically just, you know, 7 a.m. or whatever. And if you're testing the timing specifically, obviously leave this blank, right? So name of test, it could be just, you know, whatever the test angle would be. So let's say I'm testing 10% off versus 20% off, right? And then variable A would be like the 10% off, 20% off, and then you would select offer, and then you would just put A or B. And in the conclusion, this is where you get a bit more nuance. So the reason why I used the 10% versus 20% off example is because obviously the 20% most likely is going to get more conversions, right? However, the main thing you want to look at is the trade-off. And that's why this cannot be, like whatever conclusions you draw, cannot be templated into merely metrics, right? Because let's say you're giving away 20% off, right? And your net margins on any given product is, let's say 40%. You've literally slashed half of your gross margin just by using this discount, right? Therefore, you need to look at it on a profit basis, right? So does a 10% discount bring in only, let's say, half of the sales of the 20%, and evaluate it based on profit? The winning metric for all split tests is going to be extremely different. So for example, if you're testing like subject lines, for example, right, it could be like, welcome to brand name. If you're doing like a, you know, initial email or whatever, or like introducing brand name, right? And let's say A is the winner, you can conclude that, hey, A is the winner because it has XYZ open rates, right? However, not all tests are the same. Not all tests are as straightforward. Now, let's pretend we're going to do the 10 versus 20% off offer. How would you actually go about doing that? Well, I'm going to show you within Klaviyo right now. We're going to create a test campaign together, okay? So on the campaign name, you just want to write, let's say 10% versus 20% flash sale split, right? This would be something like that. You would select the day that you want it to go out. Let's say I would want it to go out next Tuesday. Select email, obviously. And then from here, you can choose like the segment that you want to send it to, etc., etc. And once you're in this stage, this is where split testing kind of starts to happen a little bit, right? So rather than giving you the drag and drop builder like you would normally do, I'll just use like a text only one just to give you an example. Just going to select text only real quick. And we're going to say, you know, use code 10 off, something like that, right? Boom. So once this is done, this is where you actually begin to create the split test. So you want to hit create A/B test. Boom. Now you have two variations, right? Variation A and variation B. And in variation B, you would obviously just customize it, all of that good stuff. The main thing that you got to be very careful of, right, is the test settings. So for example, if you're testing, let's say a subject line or like a sender address and preview text and all that stuff, that has the most amount of influence on open rates, right? Whereas if you're testing something like content or offer, content is more so to do with click-through rates, because the content and the copy and the designs are what influences people to actually click onto your website. Whereas the offer, a lot of the time, influences purchasing decision a lot more, right? So in this instance, what we would do is, because we're testing offers, we're going to select placed order rate. The only caveat to this is, if you are a very small brand with a very small list, don't use placed order rate. You will not have a statistically significant test size, okay? So just click rate whenever you're testing offers or if you're testing content. In this case, let's pretend this is a pretty big brand. This is like just a demo account that I have, but let's just pretend the placed order rate is what we're going for because their list size is like 50,000. Once this is set, you can also include tracking links for each separate variation of the email. Honestly, it's kind of like whatever, up to you completely. And you can go to review. Now, another thing that you can do is, if you have a really, really big list, you can actually schedule it so that you can have a limited test size before sending the winning variation to the entire list. Now, this way of doing things, I don't generally tend to recommend unless you are testing for open rates, right? Click rates, placed order rates, just go for the 50-50 just because, you know, those metrics generally have a lower throughput and a bigger drop off. So to get the most relevant data possible, you just want to do either of the two. So if we're doing offers, we'll just split it down the middle 50-50, continue to review and schedule the campaign as normal. Okay. So obviously there's content issues, but don't worry about that. It's just because I didn't include certain links and CTAs and that kind of stuff. But basically, once the campaign has had a full attribution time window, so just give it like 3 to 5 days kind of thing, you can actually from there draw the conclusion, write it up, document it. It's super important, by the way, you centralize your split test documentation. Main reason is because that makes it so much easier to look back on in the past. You have the exact date and the time and everything, and then also the name of the campaign to make it super easy to search for within Klaviyo. Over time, what's going to happen is you're going to have this huge bank of split tests that you've done on a historical basis that you'll be able to refer to in the future. And because this is email marketing, it basically costs you nothing to run a test, right? So for example, if you're testing top of funnel offers for ads, you could literally test it on emails before you decide on the winner. And that way it's going to prevent you from a lot of potential losses financially. If you found this video useful, and you are a 7-figure brand, book on a call with myself. I'd love to work on your email and SMS marketing for your brand. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.